look at the Red Jacket ZK-22 stock for the Ruger 1022. In this video, I'm going to give you a close look at the stock, go over its features, and show you what it looks like being fired out at the range. Before we get started, let's go ahead and perform a safety check and promote that safe habit. You can see that there is nothing in the magazine. There's nothing in the chamber. We're handling a safe firearm, so let's go ahead and begin. Let's start by taking a look at the charging handle. You can charge from the right, you can charge from the left, you can charge from in front, and then you can also manipulate the original rifle charging handle without the shell deflector attached to it. Once you attach the shell deflector, you will not be able to reach up in here very practically and access that charging handle. I'm not really crazy about the way that they made this charging handle. There's a little bit of slop and wiggle to it. It does not rattle without actually manipulating the charging handle, but I don't like how I can slide that back and forth. I wish it would just kind of like stay where it would stay. It's made of polymer, and you can see how much I can move it here. It feels real cheap and chintzy, but to its credit, it gets the job done. I can charge from the right side, and I can charge from the left side from in front. So I mean, it gets the job done. It just, to me, feels cheaply done. I wish that they would have done something more like a metallic charging handle. In this version of the stock, it has the Red Jacket firearm emblem in the charging handle. Moving on to the trigger, you have a little centerpiece here that you have to depress before the trigger can move. If you just pull the trigger, it won't set off. You have to put that intentional pressure on the front of the trigger, and then it slides back. There's no pivot point up here at the top. It just slides straight back, and there is not a lot of pre-travel. It's really responsive, really crisp, and honestly, for a bullpup stock, I have never felt a trigger that felt as good as this trigger. That's largely due to its design. It's got this metallic bar that slides within a track and puts that direct pressure back into the original rifle's trigger. It is a very smooth operating trigger. I really wish that they would have taken all of that design and effort and success of the trigger and applied it to the charging handle and made the charging handle out of metallic material instead of going with that cheaper polymer. But for a bullpup, it has a very nice trigger. Looking at the safety, there's a little mechanism here that you trip, and that prevents the trigger from coming back. That disables this portion of the stock trigger. It does not allow it to go back. And then when you rock it forward, that allows you to operate the trigger again. Now, so this trigger, it'd be easy to see that it's in safe. It really obstructs a lot of the space in here, and then you can tell it's on fire. I'm not sure that I completely like that it's just relying on the trigger of the stock. You do not have access to your crossbolt safety. So even if you have this on safe, the firearm is actually still in the fire position. So if you were to drop this firearm, it's more of a possibility that it could still discharge. So I wish that they would have kind of incorporated the original crossbolt safety into this design. Looking at the magazine release, there is a button that you press and that releases your magazine. This button works with your original factory magazine release. As you press up, it tilts your magazine release forward and releases your magazine. You can use the 10-round magazines. Fits very nicely in there. And then when you go to exchange the magazine, press the button and it falls out. Now you can see that this design hasn't left you any access to your bolt hold open. So if you needed to display that it's safe at a range, you would have to pull your charging handle back, put your chamber flag in, and display it that way, because there is no latch accessibility to employ the use of your bolt hold open switch. As I already mentioned, it comes with a left-handed shell deflector. It sits there like that. You just remove these two screws, place that there, put your screws back in, and that would prevent the shells from hitting you in the arm if you're shooting left-handed. I found that for this specific stock, you can see where it's rubbing, it was obstructing the charging handle. So I don't shoot left-handed very much, and I just took it off because I wanted the freer operating bolt. I didn't want it dragging, and that's what it was doing. It was dragging up against the shell deflector for me. Now that is possible that I could take and shim it out with some rubber washers and kind of bring it out a little bit, but for me, I don't shoot left-handed enough to really need to worry about it. I just took it off. Comes with a very generous long upper Picatinny rail. Now with a rail like this, it might be more accommodating if you wanted to use a scope on this instead of a red dot or a set of iron sights. And because of the length of this rail, I feel like a scope looks a little more natural on this stock than it does on bullpup stocks that offer a shorter rail. I'm still not sure if a scope is necessarily ideal for a bullpup. I feel like a bullpup is kind of like you're trying to make the rifle short, compact, maneuverable, and that would lend itself to close quarters kind of shooting, and close quarters kind of shooting doesn't really require the use of a scope. But if you wanted to set this up with a scope, I feel like it looks more natural on this stock than it does on other bullpup stock offerings for the Ruger 1022. But I do think it looks very good with a red dot on it. While we're talking about the rail here, because this is kind of a clamshell design and the rail is polymer with the rest of the stock, there is a split seam through the middle of the rail. So when you go to break the firearm down to clean, you cannot leave your sight attached to your rail. You have to take the sight off to break the stock down to get to the internals of the gun to break it down and thoroughly clean it. So you will lose zero every time you need to clean the gun, and for me, I like to clean the gun every time I take it out and shoot. Take care of your gear, and hopefully someday when you need it, it'll take care of you. So that can be kind of a downside there. And you can see I have some Magpul MOE polymer Picatinny rails attached to the side here. There are two brass inserts that are threaded that will accept these screws. I have a rail on the right and on the left side, and that's nice if you want to mount a laser or a flashlight, or if you just like the look of Picatinny rails on the side of your firearm. This stock has one slot for a sling to thread through, and you have plenty of opportunity to attach it at another point anywhere up here, but there's only one slot for a sling. Now they do have some placements here that you can put QD inserts in, and I have the Magpul QD inserts installed into this stock, so I could take and put my sling on this way and then be able to take it on and off very easily and conveniently. But those were all additions. The rails and the QD inserts, those are things that I added to this stock. They did not come with the stock. But it's nice that they gave a little thought to letting you add stuff to the stock. When I first saw this stock, I was hearing the sound of the material and I thought, boy, that sounds like it's really cheaply made. It doesn't feel that way. When I pick the thing up and hold it in hand, it feels really nice in hand. The material feels very nice. It just feels very quality, very solidly built. It's smooth. There's not a lot of traction pretty much anywhere on the stock, including the back of the stock. It's all a smooth design. There's no traction built into it for shouldering or for a better grip. There's not a lot of traction anywhere on the rifle. It is kind of a pain in the backside to assemble. There are a lot of screws. It's just a pretty involved assembly. And then if you put the QD inserts in here, then you're going to have 2 more screws that you just added to your assembly process. But once it is assembled, it seems to be a pretty solid build. This stock will accommodate both a standard tapered barrel, like you see I have installed here, or a bowl barrel. If you remove these inserts, then it would accommodate a .920 bowl barrel. Be aware though that you need to have a barrel that's at least 18 inches long to meet that minimal length required for a rifle, or you would have to file a tax stamp and register this as either a short-barreled rifle or any other weapon. Now this stock is no longer produced by Red Jacket Firearms. They are produced by a company called Achilles Defense, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Might not be, but a lot of the same guys that were working over there at Red Jacket kind of split off and started their own company, and so this is produced under another manufacturer, but this gives you a close look at what it looks like. Let me show you what it looks like being shot out at the range. Good.
But that's the end.
That's the end. Alright, well, there's a close look at the stock and its features and what it looks like being shot out at the range. Stay tuned and I will compare this stock to the Hightower Armory 90-22 stock and kind of go over the differences between these two stocks. It's a big world out there and we're bound to run into a shady situation. Until then, keep your gear on you.